Here's a question almost every law school applicant has but doesn't ask out loud. Does being a minority still help you get into law school? And if you're white or Asian, does it hurt you? The Supreme Court banned race in admissions about 3 years ago now, so a lot of people figure the boost is dead and it's all just grades and LSAT now, but it's not that simple. And the real answer is actually more interesting than either side will tell you. There is a boost, does still exist, but it's about half the size it used to be. It's mostly at the top law schools specifically. And here's the part that might surprise you. Even with the boost cut in half, minority enrollment did not crash. It actually went up. And today I'm going to explain how that's possible, because once you get it, you're going to understand the game a whole lot better. Now let's start with the proof, because there is actually real data on this. A professor at UCLA named Richard Sander pulled the numbers on the top law schools from 2021 through 2025. He measured how big the advantage was for Black applicants before the ban and then after the ban. After the ban, the advantage dropped by about half. For Hispanic applicants, it dropped even more, so much that at some schools you can't even prove it's still there. So the top schools didn't stop, they just turned the dial down a bit. They made the boost smaller and quieter so it's harder to see. But here is the twist that most people miss. Even though the boost shrank, the students who lost their edge at the very top didn't vanish, they just got into other strong schools instead. So across the country, minority enrollment actually rose. The people moved around, in other words, they didn't disappear. So the boost is real, but it's smaller, and nobody got locked out of law school, they just landed in different spots. Now let's talk about how this plays out at two big law schools, because the difference is important. Let's look at Harvard Law School, for example. The first class they admitted after the ban had 19 Black students. The year before, it had 43 Black students. Hispanic student numbers dropped from 63 down to 32. So that's a significant change, of course, dropping by half. At Yale Law, same deal, but different outcome. 12% Black, 13% Hispanic, barely moved from before the ban. So one school's numbers crashed, the others didn't budge at all. One of them stopped giving a boost, the other found a way to keep it. So how do you keep a race boost when race is banned? You use a workaround. And this week, the government proved exactly how that workaround works, because there was a dean who was dumb enough to explain it to a reporter. Yesterday, the Justice Department went after UC Davis Medical School. Not for using race, but for using the thing that schools switched to instead. Davis built a scoring system that ranked every applicant on how disadvantaged they were, based on their family income, whether their parents went to college, whether they grew up in a poor area. Then the school changed how much your grades and test scores counted based on that score. And of course, none of that is race directly, but it lines up with race. That is the whole point, of course. And the dean of admissions said so directly out loud to a reporter. His exact words were, quote, "Class struggles have a huge overlap with race. That's how we skirted the issue." So he's saying right there, that's how we skirted the issue. He thought he was being smart. I'm not so sure, because the government just used that one sentence as proof that the school deliberately broke the law. And of course, Davis is a medical school, but it will impact all of higher education, because the workaround of looking at the whole person, weighing their background and what they overcame, law schools run that also. They call it holistic review. Looking at your zip code, whether you're the first in your family to go to college, your hardship story, all of it feeds in. And of course, it's not a literal scoring scale like what Davis did, but it's the same family aimed at the same goal. And the government's approach here is simple. If you build a race-neutral system on purpose to get a race-based result, being neutral on paper isn't going to save you. They're going after what you meant to do. And the dean who's bragging about skirting the Supreme Court ban makes that pretty easy. 3 weeks ago, the government found that Yale Medical School broke the law, and the number there was wild. A Black applicant had 29 times the odds of getting an interview as an Asian applicant with the same test scores. Before Yale, it was on UCLA. Then on June 4th, the government opened 15 new med school investigations all at once. Then yesterday there was Davis. Now, med schools are just where they started, because the data there is clean and pretty easy to measure, but law schools are next up, and they're more exposed than they think. The Supreme Court ruling covered all of higher education, not just doctors, and the group that won that case has said they are not done. And law schools publish more public data about their admissions than almost everybody because the reports the American Bar Association forces them to file every single year. The numbers are sitting there waiting to be analyzed. Somebody has to run them, and people are going to. Now, there's one more thing the news won't tell you, and you need to know this. This is not settled. A lot of lawyers think the government is overreaching. They say the Supreme Court banned using race, but never banned looking at poverty or background, even when those line up with race. And Davis is fighting back. These cases are, of course, headed to court, and nobody knows who's going to win. So you're not applying into a world where the boost is dead for sure. You're applying into the middle of a fight that is still going, and that's actually harder to plan around because the rules could flip in the middle of your cycle, which is the whole reason you want to build an application that wins no matter who and how it ends. So here's what you actually want to do, and it depends on who you are. If you're Black, Hispanic, Native American, your story still matters, but it doesn't live in a checkbox on a form anymore. It lives in your essay, in your own words, because that's the only place the school can legally learn it. The catch is, you've got to tell it right. And the Supreme Court told you what to do. The Chief Justice said a school can care about how your background shaped you, but only when it's tied to something real about you, your character, a skill, something you can do. So in plain terms, here's what you do. A weak essay would say, my background was hard, and it made me who I am. That's vague, it's lacking detail, anybody could have written that. A stronger essay tells one specific story, a moment, a thing you did, a problem you handled, and it shows what it proves about you. That you fight for people, that you don't quit, that you stay steady when things fall apart. And you want to tie that to the lawyer you're going to be, never to the label alone. And you're not trying to trick the system or game it necessarily. You want an essay that's true and lands. You don't want to feel like you reverse engineered hardship just to get points. They've seen a million fake stories and they can smell them. Now, if you're white or you're Asian, I want you to take a breath. Yes, the boost for other students is real, but remember two things. First, it shrank by half, and the students who got it weren't taking your seat at every school because when the edge got smaller, everybody just spread out across more programs. The gap is smaller than it's been in decades. You are not doomed, and the data backs that up. But you can't coast on your numbers alone either. Your move is the specifics. You want to share with the school why them specifically. What do you actually want to do with the degree? You want real proof that you mean it, not just saying, I've always wanted to be a lawyer or I love to argue. And of course, there are a few things that are true for everybody. Your LSAT and your GPA matter more now, not less, because when a school gets accused of cheating with the soft stuff like the essays, they defend themselves by leaning on the hard numbers. The scores you need went up again this year. Some schools raised their LSAT median 2 or 3 points in a single year. The school that made you safe last year might make you a long shot this year. So if you fix one thing only, fix your LSAT score. That's what they look at hardest, and it's what you control the most. Then, of course, your essay is the other battleground, and now you know why. It's the only place your real story can legally show up, so it's the part they read the closest. Don't write it last. Don't fake a hardship that you didn't actually experience. Write something true and something specific. Now, I also want you to rebuild your school list from zero because last year's safe schools could be this year's reaches, given that the medians are always going up. And Yale and Harvard proved you can't guess a school's behavior from its rank alone. You also want to go after scholarship money more than ever because law school now runs about $82,000 a year, and the government just capped loans at $50,000 a year, leaving a $32,000 gap every year that applications can help you fill if your numbers are strong. If you move early, if you lock in your score, if you start your essays now, if you apply early in the cycle, you're going to have an advantage. And if you want my help getting that LSAT score up, getting into better law schools, getting more scholarship money, I'm happy to help you out. I'm offering free LSAT tutoring for everybody watching this now or later. You can book that free LSAT tutoring lesson with me at unpluggedprep.com/start. The link is below the video on YouTube, pinned in the chat on YouTube, in my bio on TikTok and IG. I've also put together a free LSAT cheat sheet to help you jumpstart your LSAT prep. It's a quick reference on everything logical reasoning and reading comprehension. You can grab that free cheat sheet at unpluggedprep.com/cheat sheet. The link for that also is below the video, pinned in the chat, in my bio as well. Happy to help you out. I see some questions here on LSAT and law school admissions. Happy to answer as many as I can. Feel free to just keep dropping them in and I'll get to whatever I can. Sticky Icky's asking, the top 14 law schools have like a 3.7 GPA floor now. It's actually higher, believe it or not. The numbers are rising. The T14 GPA medians range from 392 to 399. The T14 LSAT medians range from 170 to 174 or so. And so if you are below a 392 on the GPA, you want to be higher on the LSAT median to compensate. You'd ideally want to be above a 175 to counteract and balance a relatively lower GPA. I see Ivar's asking a 3.8 comp sci math and data science major, thinking about pivoting to law. Okay, so it's a pretty strong GPA given the major. That's good news, honestly. Law schools will respect the rigor of the major. If you have a comp sci or math background, definitely going to give you a boost there. And so highlight that experience, highlight that background in your applications, in your essays, in your resume if you can as well. A 3.8 is pretty strong, of course. You want to still have a high LSAT high as possible to maximize your odds. So that's what I would go for at this point. Marine's asking about the free LSAT tutoring link. The free link is unpluggedprep.com/start. For the free LSAT tutoring, it should be in my bio. The link tree on Instagram and TikTok, you should be able to access it there. It's also linked below the video on YouTube, by the way. Mike is asking, my son has 2 degrees in 7 semesters, bio and philosophy. It hurt his GPA, which is a 3.7. What's he going to need for the LSAT? Depends on the school. Every law school has a different LSAT requirement and a different GPA requirement. You want to look at the medians of the law schools that you're targeting and then apply with numbers above those medians ideally. A 3.7 is not a bad GPA, of course. It's just that grade inflation is so out of control that it could actually be low, even if it shouldn't be considered low, of course. Tim is saying a 2.5 undergrad GPA, worked 2 jobs, low 150s LSAT, pivoting in mid-30s from atmospheric science. Is it possible to get into law school with a low GPA? It is possible, but you're going to need to have a much higher LSAT score to compensate for that. So a 2.5 GPA and a 150s LSAT is not going to get you good outcomes. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. And I understand the GPA may be fixed. Sounds like you've already been working for quite a while. And so you want to offset the lower GPA with the higher LSAT to compensate. If you can get from the low 150s up to high 160s, you'll have much better outcomes. And of course, getting to the 170s would be even better if you can. And that's what I would aim for. Phaedra's asking, why don't universities take major and when you got the degree into account? Because they're not incentivized to. That's how I would look at it. I mean, law schools report the LSAT score and the GPA of their incoming students. They report those numbers to the American Bar Association, which in turn is where US News pulls those numbers from for inclusion in the US News Law School rankings. But it's those simple numbers alone, your highest LSAT and your undergraduate GPA as LSAC calculates it. So there's no nuance in the GPA. They're not looking at the year that you earned it. There's no discount for GPAs earned longer ago versus those earned more recently. And there are a lot of different potential majors that one could have. And it would be pretty complicated to distinguish between them. I mean, even the line between humanities and science can be sometimes murky depending on the specifics of the major. And it's not as if majors are standardized, right? Different universities have different majors. Some schools let you create your own major, and so it'd be kind of ambiguous or unclear as to how to interpret it. Different majors are prone to different degrees of grade inflation, and of course, different professors are prone to grade differently as well. And so there's not any real standardization when it comes to majors. And so for that reason, I could certainly see an argument for just doing away with undergraduate majors entirely when it comes to law school admissions. Maybe that's a crazy idea, but the current system seems pretty crazy as well. See a lot of questions coming in here. I'll try to get to as many as I can here. Red and Cute's asking, I know someone that got into law school with an LSAT score of 136. How in the world did that happen? Well, I'm curious to know, first of all, which law school it was. There's a wide range of law schools. There are some with LSAT medians in the 140s. There are others with LSAT medians in the 170s. My guess would be that the person who gets into law school with a really low LSAT score went to a really low-ranked law school where the bar passage rates are low and the employment outcomes are not very good. That would be my guess. I would also guess this person didn't get much, if any, scholarship money. Probably none, I would guess. And if I had to guess, just throwing darts at a dartboard, I would guess they got into Cooley, because Cooley is one of the largest law schools and also one of the lowest ranked law schools. Can't say for certain though, but 50-50, that's the guess I would think. Now, I wouldn't recommend applying to law school or going to law school with a 136 LSAT score because there's no law school worth attending that will take you with a 136 LSAT score. You might get into Cooley or another low-ranked school, but those law schools have low bar passage rates, meaning that you're not likely to pass the bar. Going to one of those schools, and the employment outcomes, meaning it's hard to get a job from those schools, are also not very good. So I'd recommend retaking the LSAT, getting at least a 155, 160 plus to get into better schools and get more scholarship money. Samantha's asking, since I'm applying in November before my fourth year fall exams, is my GPA only based on classes I finished and not fourth year? Correct. So, I mean, when you're applying to law school, it's based on your grades up to that point. Now, let's say you apply to law school and you get waitlisted or you don't hear back for several months. You could send a letter of continued interest as well as an updated transcript updating the school on what you've been up to since you applied. And if your grades increase in that fourth year, definitely worth the update if you need to. Yoni's asking, with a 4.0 in econ at UT Austin, if I get a high enough LSAT score, could I get into some of the best schools? Yeah, I mean, a 4.0 GPA is among the highest GPAs you could get. Of course, the LSAT score is the big missing piece of the puzzle, and so I'd want to see what kind of LSAT score you get. But if you've got a 4.0 GPA, if you can match out with a 170, 175 plus LSAT score, you're going to get some pretty good outcomes. Squilliam's asking, with a 356 GPA, what LSAT score do you suggest? I suggest you get a 180, regardless of your GPA. Maybe not the answer you're looking for, of course, but I mean, what do you expect me to say? Why wouldn't you aim for the highest LSAT score possible? If you're really asking me, what LSAT score do you need? The answer is going to be, well, what law schools do you want to go to? And do you want to just get into the law school, or do you want scholarship money? For the best outcomes, you want the best numbers. And if your GPA is already fixed, if you're not able to increase it, then your focus should shift to getting to the highest LSAT score possible. And if you're still a freshman or sophomore in college, or you're in high school, of course, just focus on having a good undergraduate GPA. The LSAT's not going anywhere. But if you're a junior or if you're a senior, then, or if you've already finished undergrad, then I would switch focus to the LSAT. Ayaz is asking, I'm doing an accelerated degree program and now I'm headed to my third year of undergrad. I take the LSAT in August. Is that a decent time? So you're asking, do you have enough time to get a good LSAT score by August? You've got about 2 months. The question would be, how long have you been studying for? What's your current score? What's your goal score? How many hours can you put in per day and per week? One thing we do for our students at LSAT Unplugged is we create for you a personalized study plan, laying out exactly what to do every single day from now till your test. It covers when to drill LSAT questions by type, when to do timed sections, when to take full-length practice tests as test day approaches. We break it down for you day by day, considering weekends, holidays, vacations, other obligations you have, whether you're in work, whether you're in school. If you want to talk through what your personalized study plan could look like, you can book a free LSAT tutoring lesson with me at unpluggedprep.com/start. The link is below the video on YouTube, pinned in the chat on YouTube, in my bio on TikTok and IG. I've also put together a free LSAT cheat sheet to help you jumpstart your LSAT prep. It's a quick reference on everything logical reasoning and reading comprehension. You can grab that free cheat sheet at unpluggedprep.com/cheat sheet. It's below the video, pinned in the chat in my bio as well. I see Samantha's asking about quantity indicator words. Those are in the cheat sheet as well, so I'd go there for all the specifics. I see Rachel's asking, I'm at a 147 without studying. Where should I start? How long should I study a day? Well, I'd start with the cheat sheet that I mentioned, the free download PDF I just mentioned. That's a good quick reference for you. The idea being that at this point, if you're just kind of getting started, you want to build a strong foundation in the different sections and the different question types. As for how long you should study per day, depends on what else you have going on. If you're working, if you're in school, if you have family obligations, maybe you can only do a couple hours a day. That's fine. Even 1 or 2 hours a day could be enough. Maybe a bit more on the weekends. But I'd also be curious about when you're planning on taking the LSAT. If you're taking it in August, you're going to want to take a more boot camp style approach because you got barely 2 months. If you're taking it in November and you've got 5 months, or you're taking it in January, February, you got 7, 8 months, there's way more time to improve significantly. So I would consider your time frame when deciding how accelerated and compressed you want your study plan to be. I see Susan's asking about pricing here. We customize the program for every individual student, considering the particulars, because every student's got different needs. If you're looking for a higher score, if you have a longer time frame, that will of course affect the particulars of your program. It's not a one size fits all. We customize everything. And so if you want me to customize a program for you, the best next step for you would be to book the free tutoring with me and we can talk it through together. Tajuddin's asking, how do you deal with the period between taking the LSAT and the result? Do you keep studying or do you relax? Well, I definitely want you to take a couple days off and relax because you deserve it. You worked hard, you took the LSAT, that itself is an accomplishment. And then the question becomes, how likely do you think you are to end up retaking the LSAT? Let's say you wanted a 170 and your practice tests leading up to the LSAT averaged 165. Will you hit a 170 on test day? Maybe, but probably not. I mean, you're most likely to score around the average of your most recent practice tests. And most students actually drop a couple points from the practice to the actual. So you want to build in a buffer, you want to raise your baseline. And of course, properly simulating test day conditions can help, but the nerves of the real thing can often lead to a score drop. And so if you want a 170 on test day, you ideally want your practice test to be 173 to 175 at least going in. And so if you were at or below your target score on your practice tests, a retake may be in the cards for you. And so the prudent thing, the safer thing to do would be to keep studying and just retake anyway, especially if you were, say, going into the June LSAT and now you're thinking, am I going to take the August LSAT? Because you can take the August LSAT and still apply to law school when applications open in September. In other words, you're not delaying your application by taking it in August as well. So why wouldn't you take it in August if you weren't scoring above your target score? Law schools do not average multiple LSAT scores. They only take into consideration the highest score on your record, meaning there is no real downside to retaking. If you do worse, no big deal. Your previous higher score still stands. If you retake and you do better, great. Now you've got a higher score on your record. No downside. And that's part of why so many folks do retake these days. Vicky's asking, should I take community college classes just to boost my LSAC GPA? Yeah, I would. A lot of folks do that actually. It's a cool trick because community college classes aren't that expensive in credits relative to private universities. And so a lot of folks will take summer classes to get easy A's and raise their GPAs. It's one of those little known admissions hacks. Falco is asking, will a high GRE do the same for your GPA as a high LSAT? Well, the test score and the GPA are two separate things. Are you asking, will it do the same in admissions? And the answer would be no, because US News considers LSAT scores, they don't consider GRE scores. And so if you want to boost your odds of admission and your odds of getting scholarship money, the LSAT's the game you want to focus on. You also want to show law schools that you're serious about law school in particular, that you're not just applying on a whim for lack of a better option last minute. Law schools give you scholarship money and give you admission if you can do something for them. And that typically is either pay them a lot of money in tuition if your numbers are lower, or if your numbers are higher, they will give you discounts on tuition because you raise their standing in the US News rankings, which they care a lot about because that's the central source of prestige in terms of attracting applicants in the future, as well as getting alumni donations. So the LSAT's probably what you want to do if you want scholarship money or you want to get into the best schools, and very, very few people, an infinitesimal percentage, get in without the LSAT. Yoni's asking, when do you think it's best to take the LSAT and when does major even matter for law school? So what you majored in does not matter when it comes to law school admissions. Law schools do not care what your major was. For undergrad, you could major in literally anything and go to law school. And in terms of when do you think it's best to take the first LSAT, take it when you're ready. Take it when you have the time to study and when you're scoring around your goal score or higher, ideally. but your LSAT score is good for 5 years before it expires. And so you could take it while you're in college, you could take it when you're out of college, doesn't really matter. I recommend if you're still in college, trying to take it while you're in college, while you're still in that academic test taking mindset. So think your skills around that don't get rusty. Of course, you still can do great on the LSAT out of college as well, but it can be harder when you've got a full-time job and you're not in that same academic mindset for a lot of folks. All kinds of clips is asking, can you apply at the age of 30? Yeah, you can apply at any age. We have people apply in their 40s, 50s, 60s, even 70s, believe it or not. Law schools love non-traditional students with more life experience, more work experience. It's not a detractor, it could even be a benefit in some cases. Pash is asking, what is a reasonable amount of point increase from your diagnostic LSAT to aim for? In other words, how much can you expect to increase your LSAT score? And there really is no ceiling on that. You could go from the 130s to the 170s. Not saying it's easy, not a promise or a guarantee, of course. I mean, ultimately, your improvement on the LSAT is going to be a function of the amount that you study and the way in which you study. So how many hours are you putting in per day and per week? How many weeks and months are you putting into your prep? How much lead time do you have before your target test date? And then what kind of studying are you doing? What kind of resources and support do you have at your disposal? Are you self-studying with LSAT prep textbooks that are 500 pages? Are you using ChatGPT? Are you using videos, or are you taking a proper course? Are you getting a tutor or coaching? Because the thing is that when you're studying on your own, you don't know what you don't know. But once we add some support into the mix, there's usually a pretty quick score boost, meaning there's going to be a lot of low-hanging fruit. And so if you want to talk through what it could look like to get a proper structured LSAT prep program, that's exactly the kind of thing that we offer. If you want to talk through what your personalized coaching program could look like, you can book a free LSAT tutoring lesson with me personally. The link to book it is unpluggedprep.com/start. The link is below the video on YouTube, pinned in the chat on YouTube, in my bio on TikTok and IG. I've also put together a free LSAT cheat sheet to help you jumpstart your LSAT prep. It's a quick reference on everything logical reasoning and reading comprehension, all the different LSAT question types. You can grab that PDF below the video and in my bio as well. Coco's asking, what was your LSAT score? So I started off at a 152, which is a pretty average LSAT score, ended up with a 175. Took me an entire year though, and at least of that was a complete waste of time. Really frustrating. If I'd done it properly, I could have knocked it out in just a couple of months, because ultimately the LSAT is a test of pattern recognition. If you can spot the tricks and traps, you can avoid them. It all comes down to understanding how the test makers think and seeing it from their perspective. And so that's what I aim to teach and show you how to do through my coaching program, help you avoid making the same mistakes I did, help you find more efficient approaches in your studying. I see James is asking, how long in months does it take to study to do well on the LSAT? How many months do you need? I mean, a lot of folks will try to knock out their LSAT in about 2 to 3 months. In my experience, though, it typically takes 5 to 6 months to reach your fullest potential. Of course, you can do it in less time. And so what we do for our students who are taking the LSAT in more like 2 to 3 months is we take our standard 5 to 6 month curriculum and we compress and accelerate it into only 2 to 3 months. So rather than doing coaching just once a week, we'll have you do coaching 2, 3, 4, even 5 times a week, depending on your availability. If you want to make a larger score increase in a shorter time frame, we've got to give you more support to get you to your end goal. Ultimately, you can compress it. We don't want you to cram. We do always have you taking days off here because we don't want you to burn out, but we do ask a lot of our students, and that's how we get those success stories and those results that you see on YouTube and elsewhere. I see Lencho's asking, what about if you have a high GPA and a low LSAT? Then you'd be a reverse splitter. In admissions lingo, you've got splitters who have high LSAT scores and low GPAs. You have reverse splitters with high GPAs and low LSATs. And most law schools weigh your LSAT score more heavily than your undergraduate GPA, meaning it's better to be a splitter than to be a reverse splitter. And the thing is that if you are a reverse splitter, if you're someone who has a high GPA and a low LSAT, my advice is raise your LSAT, retake it. It's a lot easier to retake the LSAT. It's 1 day, 2.5 hours, versus redoing all of undergrad, which takes you typically 3 to 4 years and costs a lot of money in tuition. The LSAT, in contrast, is about $250, one sitting, one day, 2.5 hours, and studying for a retake could be as little as taking one practice test a week and reviewing it in depth. That alone could be sufficient to get you to your goal. And I do recommend that everybody retake the LSAT because more at-bats means more successes. And if you can target your weak areas and study more efficiently, of course, you're even more likely to get that increase. Rennie's asking, how do you feel about electrical engineering for 4 years, then taking the LSAT? I'm afraid my GPA will be lower than those who majored in poli-sci. Very well could be. I mean, electrical engineering is no joke. GPAs are more brutally curved. Your grades are going to be lower than someone who did poli-sci on average. But it is what it is. The context of knowing what you majored in will certainly be relevant to law schools. But at the same time, at this stage, what can you do about it? Get a higher LSAT score. That's where I would focus your energies at this point. Focus your efforts on studying for the LSAT and getting the highest score possible, and that can do a lot to offset a lower GPA. Lady is asking, is it better to rush to hit law school deadlines and take the LSAT within 3 months, or give it a year? So if you're asking me, is it better to rush or to take your time, the answer is going to be take your time. That's the common sense answer that I could give you without knowing anything. The question becomes, what is your particular urgency around trying to hit a deadline? Is there some big reason why you've got to apply right now? I mean, if you're talking about applying now, like June to start law school in 2 months, that's probably not a great move. You're at the tail end of the cycle. It's harder to get in. There's less scholarship money available. And additionally, if you're not giving yourself sufficient time to study for the LSAT, you're not going to reach your fullest potential. In contrast, you could take the LSAT in August or September or October or November, apply to law school this fall, and then start law school about a year and change from now. That way, you're giving yourself 2 to 5 months to study for the LSAT, which is enough time. And you are applying at the beginning of the cycle when it's easier to get in because there are more seats available, and there's also more scholarship money available as well. To me, that seems undoubtedly the better move. When you apply earlier and when you apply with a better score, you're going to get more money, you're going to get into better schools, and the cost of waiting 1 year is insignificant compared to the benefits of getting more scholarship money, getting into better law schools, which will have a positive ripple effect over the rest of your career for potentially decades. To me, that seems the obvious move, but let me know if I'm missing something. I see Pash is asking, does taking a work year between undergrad and applying to law school benefit your application? Maybe. I mean, what are you doing during that year? If you're getting legal work experience, that could help. To me, though, the bigger benefit would be that if you are getting a legal job for the first time, it gives you the opportunity to explore whether law school is truly what you want to do, if you really want to become a lawyer. And then it will also give you more time, presumably, to study for the LSAT. And that might be the biggest benefit of all, is that if you have that gap year to put a lot more time into your LSAT score, getting a higher number, that could be majorly beneficial for the strength of your application. Could also give you more time to cultivate your recommenders to get better rec letters. I see a question about that. I see RC's asking, what if you have poor letters of rec, like 1 or 2 low quality ones, but you have a really good LSAT score? Well, LSAT weighs more heavily in admissions than letters of rec do by a long shot. So I'd rather you have a higher LSAT and worse letters than a lower LSAT and better letters. But depending on how much time you have before you apply, I wonder if it's possible for you to cultivate relationships with your recommenders so that you will get stronger letters. If you're still in college, maybe you cultivate better relationships with your professors, go to office hours, speak in class, make it clear that you've done the reading and that you enjoy the topic. You'd be shocked at how few people do that. And then if you're working, if you show up at work and take more initiative, you could get better letters from work also. And then you can get stronger letters, just cultivate the relationship first before you ask for the letter. If you know you're going to have poor letters of rec, I wouldn't ask it. I would delay the ask until you can ask confidently with the knowledge you're going to get a better letter. Zemi's asking, 3.3 GPA, 178 LSAT, do I have a shot at a T14? Maybe. Shoot your shot, of course. I mean, I would definitely blanket the T14, no promises or guarantees, of course. At that point, I would probably shift focus to resume, application essays, rec letters, interview. I'd be thinking about how to get all of that as polished as possible to help to further offset the lower GPA. I see a question asking, what makes a rec letter good or bad? Specificity, probably. Detail. If someone is damning you with faint praise, no specifics, no evidence backing up the superlatives, then it means they probably don't know you very well, and they're not going to be able to write you a good letter. So I would ask someone, do you feel, not just can you write me a letter, but can you write me a good letter? And if they're hesitant, you've got your answer. You should probably be looking elsewhere. But think through really who could write you the best letter. Really, rack your brain a bit first. And it's only June right now. Applications don't open until September. And so you've still got time. If you don't have anybody good to ask, spend the summer cultivating those relationships, going the extra mile, taking initiative at work, for example, in your volunteer work, in your internships, in your jobs. If you're taking summer classes, ask your professors, but first, again, participate in class and go to office hours first. Then ask for the letter. And of course, if you already have good people to ask them now, just so that you're at the front of the line and you're not waiting on it. But better to have a better letter later than a worse letter earlier. I see lady asking, is it okay to treat the first LSAT exam as a mock exam? Like, should you take the official LSAT without studying just to see what it'll be like? I recommend against that, mainly because there are limits on how many times you can take the LSAT, and all takes show up on your record. Of course, you can cancel your score if you're not happy with it, and I wouldn't keep a score if you hadn't properly studied for it, but no reason to have a cancellation on your record if you can avoid it. If you want to take a mock exam, just take a mock exam on your own. Go on to LSAC's Law Hub platform right now. They've made 4 practice tests available for free. Then you can, of course, get access to the others with a paid subscription, but it's well worth the investment. But take a practice test on there right now. It's one sitting, about 2.5 hours, with a free LSAC account, and you'll be able to get a read on where you stand. And for those wondering about tutoring, we do offer custom personalized coaching programs. If you want to talk through the particulars, you can book a free LSAT tutoring lesson with me to see what it's like. The link to book that is unpluggedprep.com/start. The link is below the video on YouTube, pinned in the chat on YouTube, in my bio on TikTok and IG. I've also put together a free LSAT cheat sheet to help you jumpstart your LSAT prep. It's a quick reference on everything logical reasoning and reading comprehension. It's a free download PDF you can grab right now. For those just joining, I do these lives every single weekday, same time, same place, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 Central, 11 Pacific, here on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. If you find these helpful, please spread the word. The only way this grows is through word of mouth. I don't do any advertising for these lives, and the algorithm doesn't really boost them because they can't run ads during them. So I do appreciate your spreading the word, sharing this to your socials on TikTok, sharing this with any pre-law societies you're part of. It does really make a difference, and I do appreciate the support. I see Lencho's asking, I plan to take the LSAT in October and apply in early November. Is this good? Yeah, I would say it's good. The law school application cycle has extended over time such that what used to be considered late is no longer late. And so taking the LSAT in October and applying in November is totally fine. You've got about 4 months, plenty of time to improve your LSAT score significantly. What I would do is I would also, at the same time, over the next 4 months, get your application materials together, ask your recommenders earlier if possible, pull everything together so that when your LSAT score comes back at the end of October, you can hit submit on your applications that same day so that you wouldn't even need to wait until November to apply. You also have a gap of a couple weeks between taking the LSAT and getting your score back. And during that time, you can continue polishing and refining your essays, your personal statement, your resume, your optional essays and addenda and such, so that you're ready to hit submit. Thanks for joining, folks. I'll be back Monday, same time, same place. I'll see you all then. In the meantime, all the best. Take care.